Greetings, respected dais and fellow delegates. The delegate of People's Republic of China is honored to be a part of today's committee, and with prior permission from the dais, would like to commence. There's not enough that can be said about nuclear energy. China greatly owes many of its advancements and current technology to the development made in nuclear energy. Be it technology, healthcare, astrology, or any other viable sector, nuclear energy has positively impacted China and even the world as a whole in many aspects. For instance, China's rate of increase for carbon dioxide emissions has just decreased rapidly ever since the nuclear reactors have been built in the country. Unfortunately, nuclear energy has its own set of drawbacks, from environmental crises to loss of life to disasters such as the Fukushima incident. The problems decrease the future prospects for usage of nuclear energy. But solutions are present. For instance, China has made the decision to use thorium, a lesser radioactive metal which produces significantly lesser waste and is tougher to weaponize as well. In conclusion, the People's Republic of China believes nuclear energy is key to development and that this development must not be hindered. Together, China believes that a solution which is mutually beneficial will be found.
The United Nations Sustainable Development Goal SDG 7 is to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all, which is key to the development of education, healthcare, agriculture, business, etc. Despite progress in the goal, over 2.4 billion people worldwide still use harmful fuels that cause the death of more than 1.5 billion people from indoor air pollution, and approximately 700 million people are still living in the dark. In South Africa, renewable energy sources only account for about 15% of our country's electricity production, while 88.6% of electricity comes from fossil fuel sources, namely coal. We aim to reduce coal use and boost renewables to 25% by 2030, and our government has launched the REIPPPP to improve South Africa's electricity system via private sector investment in wind and biomass energy resources. Foreign nations have already committed $8.5 billion to expedite our transition from fossil fuels to renewables. But the idea of a national electricity generation network without fossil fuels or extensive emission of greenhouse gases, which a variety of countries like Iceland and Paraguay have nearly achieved, mainly relies on hydropower, which is strenuous to acquire in our drought-prone country. What we can do to accelerate the process is raise funds to build solar arrays and windmills. We can adapt energy storage technologies from other countries. A little bit of financial aid and putting heads together will go a long way.
So, climate change is a process which has been ongoing for a long period of time. The world has already experienced 2 ice ages and then warmed up. In recent times, from around 16th to 19th century, it was observed that the average temperature was 3 degrees Fahrenheit lower than what it was in the 20th century. And many scientists observed that it may have been an unsuccessful attempt of an ice age, as it didn't last long for the ice sheets to spread on the planet because of the starting of industrial era in the 19th century, in which there were huge amounts of GHGs, particularly man-made GHGs, being released in the atmosphere. And we are still continuing to release that. The changes are not only man-made but also natural. Like in the 1991, the volcanic eruption of Mount Pinatubo released about 20 million tons of sulfur that led to the cooling of the lower troposphere for the next 20 years. But those natural changes are affected by humans. Like due to global warming, the El Nino and the La Nina effect is boosted as high temperatures tend to increase evaporation from land and add moisture to the air, which intensifies the storms and floods triggered by the El Nino. Human activities have made an enormous contribution to global warming by emitting GHGs like CO2 and methane, which enhances GH effect. Various aspects like deforestation, overpopulation, and industrial emissions contribute to global warming.
On the self-count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Respected chairs and fellow delegates, the delegate of India feels obliged to receive the opportunity of speaking upon such fair issues of climate change and its adaptation. A major effect of climate change is poverty and displacement, which leads to the migration of refugees to other countries in search of employment opportunities. Talking about migrants, they have conflict, security problems, and effect on ethnic balances as they move to other countries. For this, basic infrastructures and amenities should be settled in the refugee areas for the rehabilitation of migrants. For this, India has introduced the National Developmental Strategy, which supports health, education, and sanitation facilities for refugees. According to the Internal Displacement Monitoring Center, between 2008 and 2019, 3.6 million people are estimated to have been displaced annually due to cyclones, floods, and storms within the country. The only problem in India is the correct implementation of policies all over. Not much efforts are provided by officials, not only in India, but countries such as Saudi Arabia and Afghanistan too have seen mass migrants and refugees.